We have Republican strategist Arif Halaby and NewsNation political contributor Kurt Bardella. Welcome, both of you. Glad to see you. Arif, why don't we start with you? We were just hearing from Raquel there that President Trump saying in that interview he's unsure if he has to follow the Constitution with regards to deportation cases. Your reaction to the president's comments?
Yeah, the president has always had the ability to, of course, enforce the Constitution. That's what he takes an oath for, and he's very well aware of that. The challenge across the board is this. No matter what the interview is, it is always edited. It's the reason that both the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency has always had their own internal video and audio people there at every interview, friendly or not. When the president says he doesn't know if he has to enforce the Constitution, it's a bit of a red herring. The idea of him enforcing the Constitution has been muddied by federal judges thinking that their job, Natasha, is to now be the law of the land. It is not. Co-equal branch means they get their say, and the president, of course, is the executive, which executes or enforces the law. Very important to understand the distinction. A federal judge in some district far away from the border who is protected by security and has his own team of people in his courthouse has no clue what it's like to live on the border. 3 million people were deported by President Obama. None of them, zero, had their, quote, due process. They were deported. 3 million. No lawsuits. It was ridiculous.
Kurt, I want to give you a chance to respond here. What's on your mind about this tonight?
It's just not how the system's supposed to work. You don't get to go, well, you don't know what the border is like, so you have no right to make, any interpretations of law on the border. Well, okay, you don't know what it's like to be a woman that needs an abortion procedure. You don't get to make a judgment on that. Like, that's not how the system works. If a Democrat president, Barack Obama, was doing this, we would have cried bloody murder. And I can say that because I was there. I was a Republican working at the House Oversight Committee, holding the executive accountable, watching every day as Republicans like Mick Mulvaney, Mark Meadows, Jim Jordan, Trey Gowdy, Jason Chaffetz, Darrell Issa, my boss, every single day said you cannot unilaterally do things at the executive branch without the check and balance. That's why we existed, was to protect that. I am watching those same Republicans do a complete 180 with Donald Trump doing things that we never would have allowed a Democrat president to get away with. It's the hypocrisy that bothers me here.
You did allow 3 million deportations. You allowed them, and of course the other Republicans in Congress. This is not something that you jump up and down in front of a lectern and then go catch a plane and go home. This is something that people are filing lawsuits. How many lawsuits against President Obama in his first 100 days? The Republican establishment enjoys the ability to have cheap labor, and the United States Chamber of Commerce, their job is specifically to have inexpensive labor. It's why things operate the way they do. President Trump comes in with the Roosevelt Corridor, locks down the border, and everybody freaks out. The Roosevelt Corridor has been there. It's named for a reason. It's been around for decades.
Kurt, I want to give you a chance to respond, and then I want to turn to the economy and the new comments on that today.
All I can say is when I was there in Congress working with Darrell Issa, who represents a border state and a border city, we were as hard on immigration as you could possibly imagine. So I'm not going to speak for the other Republicans, but from my experience being there, we were as hard-nosed on border enforcement and border security as you could possibly be. And I have no issue with border enforcement. I have no issue with border security. I have no issue with sovereignty. I have no issue with saying if you allow a problem to fester on your side of the border comes ours, you will be held accountable. My issue is we are holding this president to a completely different standard than we've held others. And I think there needs to be a continuity and consistency when we're talking about law, constitutionality, and following federal law and judges.
All right. So, Kurt, I do want to stay with you here. Another big point today, President Trump asked about what he'll take credit for when it comes to the economy. Let's take a quick listen together to what he said.
When does it become the Trump economy?
It partially is right now. And I really mean this. I think the good parts are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy, because he's done a terrible job. He did a terrible job on everything.
Okay, so we are now past the 100-day mark in Trump's second term. Whether he sees it as the Trump economy or not, when will the American public start connecting Trump to the economy, either good or bad?
I mean, I think most people probably accept that this is the Trump economy, in that this was someone who was very direct and bombastic almost about what would happen the minute he took office. He set the expectation that on day one, inflation will go away. On day one, more jobs will come back. On day one, prices at the grocery store will go down. On day one, your life will get more cost effective and you'll have more money in your pocket. At this current second, that hasn't borne out to be true. And so in a lot of ways, Trump kind of overshot expectation management a little bit. And right now, there's a little bit of a political price to pay for that. In the long run, we'll see. Maybe these policies will pan out the way they said he would, at which point he will experience a tremendous amount of political benefit. But until that happens, I think most voters probably aren't going to buy that. Well, the good stuff is for Trump, but the bad stuff is Joe Biden. That's not an argument that's going to really resonate in the long run.
Yeah, Arif, let's bring you in here as we round out. I mean, voters tend not to be that understanding when it comes to their own wallets here. If a recession does happen, is the GOP in trouble with the midterms around the corner?
Well, the economy is not a thing, it's many things. You have money supply, the amount of dollars in circulation. That has to be withdrawn a little bit. That's going to affect certainly some prices. But you also have the amount of jobs that are created. 177,000 jobs last month, way more than people expected. And this is important. When you are looking at the economy, you have to look at the pipeline of the economy in which many little time bombs, if you will, were put into the system well into last summer. Even Kamala Harris said, no matter what, there's a recession due this year. Whether there's one, it's a small one. 2022, 2023, the stock market was flat for all intents and purposes. People weren't saying, oh, the Biden economy, this or that on the left. It was a left-wing idea to basically put sabotage or little systems in place, whether it be a flooding of the system with money, whether it be a locking down of oil and energy supplies, whether it be the transfer of oil drilling rigs to the Gulf of America for China, paid for by the Obama and Biden administration, locking those rigs from being able to produce in the United States. It was only Indian or native tribe reservations that were drilling over the Biden administration, especially the last couple of years. Okay. Now you'll see a whole change. The economy is different.
I regret that we were out of time, but Arif Halaby, Kurt Bardella, thank you both.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.